Thank you, Heather. Thank you, DC, and Janet, and Bianca, and all of my fellow nominees who I'm so honored to share a stage with. And also, I really liked reading your books. Thank you for writing them. Here we go. 16 or 17, bones still close to the surface. She'd been stomping down the center aisle with a tower of dirty, festive coffee cups from the in-store cafe when Gray and the manager found a floor plan problem. The manager on duty, a young man with camp counselor eagerness, yelled, "Chrissy!" She didn't startle or glance at them, just set the cups on the floor and plodded over. Gray was on the point of remarking, "Garbage in the aisle? Really?" Then he looked at her face. Her eyeliner had been wiped off just recently, and not very well. Streaks of black coal fading towards her ears. Her eyes had red streaks. Her novels were a translucent pink. The manager cocked his head, listening to something in his earpiece. Before announcing, "Chrissy, I need to deal with a situation at cash. Please do whatever Mr. Reindeer says. If you could grab it, see, so." Chrissy's wrists were blue-veined and bony, but she hefted the table easily enough. They waddled, him forward, her backwards, to the edge of the coffee shop before plunking the table down just as his forearms were starting to wrench. "It's all right here, Chrissy, but the creative cookery table shouldn't have festive wrapped sets on it. Move them over to gifts, okay?" She stared at him, eyes dark. Gray exhaled. No one cared much about merchandising, the vitality of traffic flows, symmetrical displays. He stooped to pick up some paper on the floor. Chrissy was still staring, fidgeting with the hem of her vest. Suddenly, "Reindeer, I know that name from the news. The woman who was killed, Catherine Reindeer?" The piece of paper on the floor was a receipt for 3 guitar magazines, $18.97. Gray regarded Chrissy from knee height, and for a moment he believed her, believed in some magic wireless from the hospital into this sad girl's brain. Catherine was dead. He let the devastation he'd long feared and been waiting for finally come. He would have to give all her clothes away, her little tennis shoes. The closet would be empty on one side, and he would be truly alone. He tipped backwards from his crouch to the floor, wrists dangling off his knees, gaze on the waist of Chrissy's velvet skirt. Then reality slid back in. No. Chrissy flushed, wiping the hair out of her eyes. "I'm sorry, I read this thing in the newspaper, but I'm an idiot. I must have remembered wrong." Gray braced his hands on his knees and stood back up to face her. Standing seemed better, but he still wanted to weep. No, that was her, us. She's my wife. But she didn't die. She's fine. Really great, actually. It was all a misunderstanding. He could imagine it being true. Catherine truly really great, at home reading Nabokov while she waited for the kitchen floor to dry, picking at a bowl of kale chips. He could have that again someday. Maybe. He felt a shiver of joy to see the salesgirl stretched smile at this happy ending. She nodded and whispered, almost to herself, Oh, that's really good." He blinked back from the daydream and told the girl she could go now, and Merry Christmas. Chrissy shrugged shyly and leaned down to pick up the cups she'd left on the floor. He never found out what she'd been crying about. Thank you.